Hey friends, welcome to day 2 of Ignite 2020. I've got some wonderful folks joining me as well as some awesome demos. You know, here's the thing. The way we work has changed in 2020. To put simply, we now live in a world of remote everything. And frankly, it sucks. Many of my coworkers, my friends, my colleagues have been thrown into remote work. They weren't working remotely before, and some of them have had this frantic, get your laptop, you're now working from home, whee, kind of a moment. And we've been doing this now for months. And the way we're all working is not representative of remote work. I've worked remotely for Microsoft for 13 years, and I can tell you that quarantine work is not remote work. It's different. But while things are getting back to normal, Microsoft is pleased to play a small part in making remote work possible. We're helping development teams code, collaborate, and ship. That can be internal, that can be customer-facing apps, even when working as a remotely distributed team. So no matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter what your language is, every developer is welcome. Whether you're building apps with Java, Node.js, Python, .NET, Azure supports your tools, your languages, and your apps. And we're always trying to continue to innovate and regularly update the Azure SDK. Now for me, Azure is the cloud for .NET apps. We've made really significant investments in .NET over the years, as well as unifying the ecosystem, so now you can build literally anything. Yesterday, we announced the availability of .NET 5 release candidate. That means general availability coming on November 10th. And this release continues the journey to unify the .NET platform across mobile and web and desktop, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, and even IoT. Now, .NET's got several cloud and web investments. You've got smaller single file applications. They're faster. They use less memory. This is really great for microservices, containers, running containerized applications on Kubernetes across operating systems. This release also has some really significant performance improvements, as well as support for Windows ARM64, and also new language support for C#9 and F#5. It's really a fantastic release. You can download .NET 5 RC with a Go Live license now. That means you can put this into production. We're actually running it in production right now on the .NET website. Now, I love that I can build anything with .NET. So I want to show you a really cool application that I built during the last few months while we've been stuck at home here to manage chores for my family. All right, so let me show you how this works. This is my kitchen, and we're walking in my kitchen. There's my pantry. Yes, I'm the last person on the planet with a landline. Sue me. Okay, so there's the DAC board. You might also hear this referred to as a magic mirror, and you can see I've got the weather, we've got chores, family photographs. It's really a status update. It's a dashboard, just like your Azure dashboard. It's a family dashboard, okay? And I've got components in those that I can write. We've written them in Blazor and .NET 5. That chores list is actually managed by .NET and hosted in Azure, and we're going to see more on that a little bit later. It's just one example of a really great .NET application. Now, that's a cute little application, but let's talk about how we would take the micro to the macro, right? There's an immense potential to scale your applications. And Azure is the world's computer. Azure is global, provides a broad range of services that enables you to build rich application solutions that you focus on apps. You don't think about infrastructure. Across all of Azure, we've got thousands of capabilities. Here's just a list of a few of them. These are from Kubernetes to containers and databases. Again, IoT and intelligent edge. All of this is trying to ensure that you can stay ahead of the curve. Now let's talk about developing for the cloud. We're continuing to innovate in the app space, and one of the things we take pride on is our integrated tooling, that developer experience for Azure. It brings up best-in-class tools, SDKs for every programming language, and a platform that supports continuous collaboration and continuous delivery, as well as things like Power Apps and Power BI. Now, as developers and organizations have been adapting to this post-COVID world, they face challenges in shifting to remote work. Now, the most resilient developers can code and collaborate and ship from anywhere, and they expect their tools to help them achieve that. So with Visual Studio, GitHub, and Azure, your developer teams can code, collaborate, and ship from anywhere. And we call this our developer cloud. And with it, developers can code from anywhere. That means cloud-aware development tools, cloud-powered development environments that make any device a development machine, allows you to work flexibly from anywhere. Then you can collaborate without friction from anywhere. These are tools that let you work in a distributed team and collaborate with the open source community in ways that feel most natural to you. And then, of course, finally, securely ship from anywhere. These are those services and tools that allow you to monitor how that code is performing and then maintain confidence in security despite being remote. It all starts with your dev environment. And we know from talking to you that one of the most common pain points that devs have, especially in the most recent months, is setting up a new dev box from wherever you need to work. At Build, we showed GitHub Codespaces. It uses the power of the cloud to give you a fully configured development environment in seconds. So GitHub Codespaces is seamlessly integrated into GitHub, meaning that you can create a codespace right from github.com. You can work in a full-featured web-based editor, okay? And what's cool about this is you can also use Codespaces from the Visual Studio family of tools as well. We just added support in GitHub Codespaces beta for Windows-based Codespaces with Visual Studio 2019 support. Visual Studio, GitHub, and Azure combined give you that end-to-end developer experience, and that's from your idea to your code to your cloud. We also announced yesterday the public preview of some new GitHub Actions. This will enable developers to create code-to-cloud workflows. These are secure and compliant. They integrate governance and quality into the software development lifecycle. The idea is that you have an everything-as-code DevOps model. All the policies, all the build and release pipelines, everything's expressed as code. And that enables continuous improvement and promotes better reuse and drives greater transparency. Now, here's an app that I built. During the last few months, my family and I have been doing some social distancing vacations. We drove down to Wildlife Safari in Oregon, got to see the animals, but we stayed inside of our cars. So we built a blog with Orchard Core. It's an open source CMS to showcase kind of our photos and what we were going to do. And I was going to call my friend Abel, and we would maybe build it out, do it together, and maybe add a map to it or do some new features. So let's go ahead and give Abel a call. Hey, Abel, you ready to help me out with my blog?
Well, actually, I'm not quite ready.
Is this because you're on your fancy deck?
Well, look, I know you wanted me to come on and show you how to add this new map feature, but that's kind of a basic demo. It would be way cooler if I showed you how I built your blog using the device that I used.
Okay, I mean, that's not that interesting. You used a big, giant desktop, powerful machine like everybody else.
Nope, what I used is this first-generation Surface Go.
Really?
Yep,
okay.
Totally.
Okay, I feel like you might be making that up. I mean, Surface Go is a great little machine. My kids use it for school. It's not exactly a development environment. I don't think I would install .NET 5 and all the libraries. And to be clear, Orchard Core is a wonderful CMS, but it's 100 projects. You did not do this on a Surface Go. You're trolling me live at Ignite 2020.
Come on, man. You know I wouldn't make this up, right? Yes, Visual Studio is super powerful, but with GitHub Codespaces, most of the work is going to be done in the Codespace. So my visual install is going to be super fast.
Okay. I don't believe you.
Really? You know, I had a feeling you would. So I recorded a video. Now, check this out. First, since most of the heavy lifting is being done inside of Codespace, so I don't have to install any of the workloads in Visual Studio, and that's why my install is fast. It takes about 2 minutes.
Okay, that is cool. Now, to complete the things that I want to do when I'm building apps, I need to do a ton of workloads. So installing Visual Studio, it can take a minute. Even on a fast machine, you're still looking at 10, 15 minutes.
Yep. So without the workloads, man, it goes much, much faster.
Interesting. So you're just putting the Visual Studio shell there somehow.
Yep. Okay. So now that Visual Studio is installed, all I need to do now is just connect up to my Codespace for this project. And once I log in with my GitHub account, I can see all my Codespaces, right? Or I can create a brand new one. But since I already created one, I'll just go ahead and connect to it. And now, once I connect up to my Codespace, my experience is exactly the same as if I open this project up locally. So now I can write code, I can build, I can debug as fast as if I was using a real dev machine.
Okay, so what do you mean debugging? Like I have to attach to some process and open a port like remote debugging?
Yeah, it's kind of like remote debugging, but remote debugging requires a whole bunch of configuration, right? You got to open the right ports, you got to have the same symbols, you have to attach to the right process. There's a lot going on there. But with Codespaces, all I have to do is just connect to it, click run, and bam, Codespaces does everything for me. Let me show you what I mean. Here is where I go ahead and add a breakpoint, right? And when I click run, see how the app builds? Super fast, right? Way faster than my Surface Go can do. And then it goes ahead and launches my app, does all my proxying and port forwarding for me, and bam, there you go. My breakpoint has been hit. So now I can go ahead and trace in, I can trace over, I can check my variables, I can check my threads. Basically, I can do whatever debugging I need to do with Visual Studio. So there you go, dude. From nothing to debugging in less than 7 minutes. All done on a first-gen Surface Go.
That's pretty awesome. So using just a regular Surface Go, first gen, you said, you installed Visual Studio from nothing. You didn't have the machine set up like a raw machine. And then you started not just installing, bringing the code down, because you didn't, it was in Codespaces, started debugging with 90 projects, 100 projects in minutes. Architecturally, though, what's really going on? Like, I feel like this is one of those demos that we like, magic, and then we go to the next thing. What's really happening?
All right. So Visual Studio is super powerful, right? And can do all kinds of things. But really, it consists of two parts. You've got Visual Studio, the UI, with all the windows, the menus, and the editors. And you also have the muscle behind Visual Studio, like the language services, the compilers, the runtimes, and the extensions. That's what powers things like syntax highlighting, IntelliSense, and LiveShare. But with Codespaces, you can now split these two things apart. So locally, I just have my Visual Studio shell. And that's what I installed on my Surface Go. It's small, it's light, it's fast, it's super fast, right? And all of the Visual Studio muscle, that's not going to be running locally. That's going to be running in my own personal dev environment hosted up in GitHub Codespaces. So my Codespace, it's a dedicated resource, completely isolated from my other projects. And in each Codespace, it's fully customizable. So out of the box, Codespaces, it comes with a standard set of software installed. So most projects just work. But if you need to install other things, you can. So like your Orchard project, that's using bleeding edge tech, right? Like the .NET 5 release candidate bits. So I've added a file into my repo that literally tells Codespaces to go ahead and install this release candidate along with all the other libraries that we're using. So now, right, when I type foo dot and IntelliSense pops up with my choices, or when I'm typing and my Roslyn analyzers kick in, or when I'm debugging a whole bunch of threads, or even compiling your massive Orchard solution with its 90-some projects, all that heavy lifting is done up in the cloud. So literally, this first-gen Surface Go, there's nothing devy about it, right? But by using Visual Studio in GitHub Codespaces, it now performs like I'm using a fully decked-out Surface Book 3. So bam, how cool is that, Scott? But seriously, like Codespaces, right? Freaking awesome. You get your own customized dev environments the way you want it, the way you need it. And you get super fast onboarding for your projects. So instead of spending days setting up your machine, now you can go from nothing to debugging in minutes. And finally, by offloading the heavy lifting to the cloud, any machine can now be your high-powered dev machine.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. I can connect to Codespace, I can edit, I can build, I can debug. But when I want to publish to Azure, can I like still right-click publish like when I usually do things in Visual Studio locally?
Dude, Scott, no, I mean, you can, but come on. I'm a DevOps guy. I can't believe you just said right-click and publish. Because look, I totally get how convenient it is just to right-click and publish. But what if I told you you can now right-click and do the right thing? So check this out. With Visual Studio, you now have the power to right-click, and it'll create for you a CI/CD pipeline using GitHub Actions. And then using that pipeline, it will build your app from source control, run your unit tests, and then it will deploy your app into production. Now, for those that don't know, GitHub Actions, that's GitHub's new workflow engine, where you can automate all sorts of things, including CI/CD. And CI/CD, that's continuous integration and continuous delivery, where every developer check-in is verified by first building it and running all its tests, and then deploying it. So now, if something is wrong, the devs get notified immediately after they check their code in. So man, this is so much better than just right-click and publish. Because seriously, right? Right-click and publishing, That's just taking bits from your dev environment and pushing it out into production. So like, what happens if your code isn't committed and you get hit by a meteor or something, right? Guess what? That code is now gone. And the other devs on this project, they don't have the production code. Or what if you have libraries installed in your dev environment that isn't checked into source control? That happens all the time, right? But that means no one else on your project has working code. And how do we make sure you're a good citizen and you run all of your unit tests before you right click and publish, right? So see, you need a CI/CD pipeline. Everyone deserves a real CI/CD pipeline, even your family blog. So go ahead, Scott, right click and do the right thing.
Oh, that's pretty fantastic. So not only am I able to do all my regular developer tasks in Visual Studio, I can do it from anywhere, but I can also configure easily a complete DevOps experience as well. Codespaces are slick.
Yeah, man, they totally are. And I'm super stoked to have any machine be my dev machine with the awesome tooling of Visual Studio.
Okay, that was a much better demo than building the map for my blog, but we'll do that like next time.
Absolutely. If we can use Codespaces, I'm totally in.
All right, cool. I'll catch you later. Great stuff from Abel. Let me dig a little bit into the cloud. Yesterday in the Azure keynote, Julia White shared how we continue to innovate, particularly in the serverless space. She announced the new Azure Communication Service and some interesting innovations in the database space, like Azure SQL Edge GA and a public preview of a new deployment option for Azure Database for MySQL and Azure Database for PostgreSQL, the flexible server. I highly recommend that you watch Julia's keynote on demand to learn more about these exciting announcements. Now, I've got some even more great stuff brought to you by our engineering teams working on Azure. I invited some friends from Azure Engineering to talk to you about what they're most excited about. Azure App Service, Azure Logic Apps, Azure Cosmos DB, and Azure AI have some really cool things happening. Natasha, Deborah, and Netta, please take it away.
Hey, Scott. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Natasha. I'm an engineering manager on App Service and Logic Apps team and excited to share a few updates. App Service currently hosts over 2 million web apps, and we can now support more apps than ever. With Premium V3, you can run more apps per instance and larger apps with memory options up to 32 gigs per instance. With the GA of Windows Container support, customers can now run apps with COM+ or custom OS dependencies on App Service. And for the first time, we are offering reservations pricing. Customers can save up to 55% with a 3-year commitment. Logic Apps, which is used by more than 40,000 customers for automating business workflows, has a new containerized runtime, providing hosting flexibility to run on App Service, Kubernetes, or any cloud. We're also launching a new VS Code extension for developers to do local dev and test before deploying to the cloud. Logic Apps will offer stateless workflows with significant performance improvements. So many features in this release. Really look forward to seeing what customers will build.
I'm Deborah Chen, and I'm a Senior Program Manager on Azure Cosmos DB. Let's talk about our 2 Ignite announcements. First is our new serverless mode. It's completely consumption-based, so you'll only get charged for the resources and storage that you actually use. This makes it easy to get started or run small apps on Azure Cosmos DB. Second, we're adding new capabilities in Azure Synapse Link. Data analysts will now be able to run analytical T-SQL or Spark queries over their data in Azure Cosmos DB, including for the first time on their MongoDB data. We're really excited about these new features, which are coming next month.
Thanks, Scott. I'm Netta, Azure AI Principal PM. Today, in Azure AI, we have some exciting announcements. For Azure Cognitive Services, in the decision category, we have the new Metrics Advisor service that proactively monitors metrics and diagnoses issues. In the vision category, the new spatial analysis feature in computer vision helps organizations maximize the value of their physical spaces by understanding people's movement in near real time. Now, onto machine learning with the new general available capabilities. The designer provides drag and drop models for tasks like data preparation and evaluation, and the no-code automated ML UI enables you to build and deploy predictive models. Back to you, Scott.
Thanks so much for sharing, friends. So by leveraging serverless and services in Azure, I can build my applications efficiently, both in terms of cost and effort. I can add these services to extend my applications and get even more cool functionality. Actually, let me show you what I did with my family dashboard and how I added some amazing Azure services to make my life a little bit easier here in quarantine land. Start this video. All right, so here's my trash can in my kitchen. I put some lights on top there. You see the green light, and I've basically taped a Pi top. It's a Raspberry Pi on the back of it. And then I'm going to go and put some trash in here, and I've got a proximity sensor pointing straight down. And then when we see that the trash gets higher up, the proximity sensor goes off, and then that light's going to, there it goes, light turn red. I'm going to run over the DAC board. We've extended the DAC board now to have a heat map. Watch the trash can. Look, it just got an instant update, and it says reminder sent. We can see a little map there that shows where in the house the trash is. And then we see also that our ASP.NET chore list inside of our dashboard is updated to tell the kids to go and take out the chores, take out the trash, which is pretty sweet. Now, let me show you what this looks like. We've got our Raspberry Pi, our IoT device in this case, running Python. That little Python application is running on the Raspberry Pi. I made that with Visual Studio Code. It calls an Azure function. That Azure function, there's actually two, one in Node and one in .NET, because I like to mix it up. And the Raspberry Pi then sends the height of the trash with that proximity sensor over into one of the functions that then uses the Azure SDK for .NET to talk to the Azure Communication Services, which sends a text message. Sends that text message to my children to tell them it's time to take out the trash. Simultaneously, we get back an event from Azure Communication Services to let us know that, which then uses SignalR to dynamically update that application running in the DAC board, which is running Blazor. So we get this nice circle as the Raspberry Pi sends its notifications into functions, goes into some event hubs, through Azure Communication Services, the text message gets sent, and then we update that heat map. Really, really clean, nice IoT experience. As I'm lighting up everything in my house now, I'm going to do all the trash cans now. The kids hate me. It's going to be amazing. Let me show you what this looks like in Visual Studio. So what I did is I used Visual Studio Code in this case, which you can use with your favorite language. Here I'm in Python. I'm using remote SSH debugging. So we're debugging directly to the Pi from my Windows machine. I can run and I can debug my IoT apps, but I can also create web apps and microservices and deploy those directly to Azure, all from Visual Studio Code. We move to the next slide here. Look at this relationship between Communication Service, Event Hub, and Logic Apps. So in the Event Hub, we've got that information that's feeding in. Now I'm looking at the communication server, sending that text, and then check this out. This is the new Visual Designer in Logic Apps V2. It's fantastic. It can kick off any business process. Mine's really simple, but I'm going to expand it to do other things. It's got thousands of connectors. In this case, Event Grid talks to Logic Apps, and then we make that call over to ACS, the Azure Communication Services. I had a ton of fun building this. It was basically a fun weekend. I hope that you can do cool things like this too. Now, I just showed you how easy and fun IoT can be, even for folks like us at home. But it plays a much bigger and a much more critical role in the larger society today, from small to enterprise scale businesses. So in order to dive in, let's phone a friend who is an expert on IoT. Maybe she'll give me some tips on how to maybe make my trash can IoT project better. We'll call Tara. Hey, did you see my cool home IoT project?
Yeah, hey, Scott. It was cute. It was cute.
I called you for a compliment. I did some cool stuff in my house.
Wait. I promise I am not throwing shade. But think about this. How would that scale? What if you had millions of trash cans? What were you going to do? Do it one by one? That's not quite a real world solution. You know what? I got one for you. I got a great example. Our realty. It's in New York. They did a building management system. That's real.
Okay.
Want to see it?
It's all talk. I want to see a demo.
But we can't really go to New York, but let's go to New York.
I like that idea. Hey, okay, I recognize this. This is 75 Rockefeller Plaza. Is this RXR property?
You know, RXR is actually one of New York's largest property owners. They have 25 million square feet. That's with a big M. And that includes some of the most iconic addresses. Obviously, this one, too. You know what? I just thought about it. When they were doing all the building and lighting up their properties with tech, guess what hit? You got it, the pandemic. And then that could have been a bad thing, but then it was an opportunity to make their buildings smarter, safer, and healthier.
Cool, but like buildings already have security cameras and sensors and stuff. Where does Azure and IoT fit into that existing hardware?
Well, you know, for me, anything that has electricity is an IoT device. But of course, every device is not connected. And in those instances, you got to get a gateway. And buildings have cameras, motion detectors, all that. But once I can get them connected to the cloud, we can make your building smarter. And we can take advantage of all this great Azure cloud services. Like, of course, IoT, but app service, stack edge, functions, spatial analysis, static web apps even.
I dig it. Hey, we're in the lobby.
Yeah, do you check out those cool thermal cameras? You know, they can measure your body temperature, Scott. Let's see if you're actually good to go.
Oh, man's not hot. Never hot. I'm cleared.
Oh, well, that's cool. You know what? We should probably keep the proper distance apart, too.
Okay, so the cameras are analyzing for social distancing.
Oh, but think about it. We can detect whatever we want, right? Azure enables these cameras to detect in real time incoming and outgoing traffic, as well as detect if people are violating social distancing guidelines. Of course, it's all using pre-trained computer vision models. You know, I just thought about something. You know, the glue that makes these connected devices able to do that real-time processing of these really complex AI detection models? It's provided by spatial analysis. And that is running on Azure Stack Edge.
Ooh, I know about Azure Stack Edge. You mean one like this?
That's a team's background. Come on.
No, it's real. It's real. I figured if I needed to do trash analysis.
You really have everything?
No, this is like a legit device here. I tried to get a Raspberry Pi and all the other devices, and they told me I needed a Stack Edge.
Wow. Okay, but you know what? That device is super cool. It has a built-in Intel Aria 10 FPGA, and with that kind of power, you can build, train, retrain ML models super fast and locally. And that means you process the data without even the latency of going to the cloud.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this is the Azure Stack GPU model that was GA'd here at Ignite. Yeah, that is like a piece of Azure in my house. And I guess you know it's unique because it's not just a cloud-managed edge compute, but you don't just buy it with a big pile of money. You order it and you pay for it with a monthly Azure service. You
know what else is cool about it? Azure Stack Edge acts as a cloud storage gateway and enables data transfer to Azure while retaining local access to the files. And Scott, you're going to love this part. You use the cloud to push containerized applications to Azure Stack Edge at all of your locations. That's cool. So RXR is able to push all these complex AI models to their existing equipment using the Azure Stack Edge device, and then that little slice of Azure will light up all their existing devices. You're spot on. Remember the spatial analysis service I mentioned? That's powering these AI models. It's a new preview service. It has pre-trained AI models for things like social distancing and occupancy. And of course, you can have custom AI spatial models. Okay, well, hang on. There's a lot of cameras in here. Like, what about privacy? RXR worked with our Office of Responsible AI to make sure all the data is used ethically. Data is only collected about the building characteristics, not the people. I see. So it's not about counting 72 people and their faces and stuff. It's just logging the fact that the building is 20% full. That's right. And all the data is anonymized, and the local data is purged after it's analyzed. Cool. Wait a minute, though. Wait. You got to show off your cool Stack Edge. Let me show you the Regatta devices I have that power this solution. Okay, let me show you. This is the Regatta IoT Edge Gateway. See it? Cool, right? And this device, where it's not that big, but it's a lot of power in here. It has an NXP ARM A7, half a gig of RAM, 8 gig of storage, not to mention it supports all the communication protocols. Bluetooth 5, Zigbee, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, and it's running on Bluetooth Core. Very cool. Oh, wait. Here's something else that's cool. Look at this. Oh, I see. That looks like e-ink. Scott and Tara have been cleared. Okay, so that's a display. That's an IoT device as well. Yes, and this display actually is being used, the e-ink display is actually being used for RXR. This is a room occupancy sensor, an alert button. Hey, just in case those restrooms aren't clean. This is an access tag, can't walk out with anything. And then here's a temperature sensor. See, all of these like really light up the solution. Cool, right? Okay, so lots and lots of inputs, thousands of inputs with all kind of different protocols, Zigbee and Bluetooth, whatever, go through the gateway. The gateway then is the jump into that Azure Stack Edge device and then off into Azure IoT Hub. Right, so peep this. It does a lot for you. So it uses IoT plug and play to get the device capability of those sensors you saw. And then it has integration with device provisioning service, so y'all do any manual config. And then the gateway handles the sensor and devices to and from the connectivity, the telemetry going, and making sure it has secure integration with IoT Hub.
I think my brain is full. I'm a little overwhelmed now because I just took some tape and put a device on a trash can, and now this got big. I'm a little overwhelmed.
Wait, I got it. Let me show you the architecture. That'll work. How about now?
Okay, so I'm still a little overwhelmed. Is this the real enterprise architecture?
Yeah, no, this is the real deal. This is the real architecture. I mean, you know what? Let me make a Scott version. How about now?
Ah, thank you.
You know what? It's really simple. If I break it down, it's just this. You have all these IoT sensors, like the one I showed you, like the thermal sensors in the lobby. And that's connected to IoT Hub via that gateway. You saw that. We use Stack Edge. And like you said, it's a little slice of Azure from the cloud. We use that to process the prediction data. It runs all the AI detection models. And those are provided by Spatial Analysis. Then Stack Edge sends that aggregated data out to the cloud. We analyze that. Data gets all sprung together, put together with streaming analytics, Azure functions. And then finally, we push that to a SQL database. And that powers all of RxR's business applications, like the building command center of it all.
Very cool. I get it now. Thank you for making a Scott version of the architecture diagram. All
Anytime.
Right. I'll see you later.
Bye.
Thanks, Tara. That was great. You know, businesses and organizations of all sizes are adopting solutions to enable remote work and back to work, like the RxR solution, while staying secure and also creating new applications. Microsoft works closely with thousands of organizations around the world to help them use the Microsoft Cloud to address today's challenges. And one of the things that makes the Microsoft Cloud unique is how comprehensive it is. With Azure, we provide a cloud platform that enables you to develop custom applications and leverage cloud infrastructure. You can take advantage of our SaaS solutions like Microsoft 365, LinkedIn, Dynamics 365, and the Power.
Welcome, everybody. I want to introduce myself. I'm Billy Anders. I lead the Azure Engineering's customer experience team, also known as Azure CXP. I'm here today with Jason Zander, Executive Vice President of Microsoft Azure. And Jason, I'm actually going to hand it off to you for you to give yourself your own introduction here, if you're okay with that.
Awesome. Thanks, Billy. Yeah, no, I appreciate you being here today as well. Billy and I are both part of the Azure leadership team here at Microsoft, and kick this off. So I'm the EVP for the group, avid coder, and huge Seahawks fan. If you couldn't tell, I'll just throw that out there just in case you missed it. But nonetheless, very excited to be here this morning. And Billy and I work very closely on the team, have been for years, on the Azure team. And excited. I'm coming from my den. I think I've gotten more use out of this place in the last 12 months. I don't know about you, Billy, with your home office. It's been a little strange.
Yep. Definitely in the home office. It's been getting a lot of use these past 7 months or so, like that. And I'm just fortunate enough that we have a place to work and great technology to enable us to continue to hopefully bring the right products and services to our customers. So very fortunate with that.
I'm totally with you. I miss the office. I will tell you that. I'm in open spaces. I sit across the room from Racinovich. And if I want to have a conversation with CTO, it's just like, hey, Mark, got a question for you, and you can just go do that, and you can schedule a meeting. I guess the good news about all this is we got some amazing tech, and there's just so much stuff happening. And honestly, I'm not sure what we would have done even just a few years ago. Without Teams and without the cloud and all this other technology that we've got. It's really changed stuff significantly in the way that we work.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with that. I miss aspects of work, particularly walking down the hallway, being able to poke my head into one of the neighborhoods or a conference and just being able to powwow with the team. And honestly, I miss actually being able to sit across the table from customers as well, to be very honest, just be able to have that face-to-face. Again, very proud and happy for the tech. But there's something to be said about being able to, back in the day, all of early this year, shake someone's hand and look them in the eye and things like that. But again, happy that we have the tech. But I do one day look forward to getting back to whatever the new normal will be. So absolutely.
So it makes sense. I mean, and thank God we got the tech and made it available, and we've got that actually like Microsoft too. And Billy, one of the things that your team runs also is our fast track program, direct engagement with customers, getting them, up and running on projects, new projects they want to go do very quickly. And I am curious, just given this, kind of, was very sudden, everybody needs to work from home. We both have kids, they need to actually do school from home, those sorts of things. What kind of projects have you seen pop up with Fast Track that, are frankly, just showing up a lot more frequently because of these environments that we're in?
Yeah. So, no, great question. So, like you said, due to the COVID-19 worldwide pandemic, we in the Fast Track team have seen, massive, actually just unprecedented, shift to remote everything, and I think it was Satya said, I think it was April of this year, we've seen 2 years of digital transformation in just 2 months of time at that time. Now we're, 7 or so months into this, and that high demand has continued. So we've already discussed things like, Teams, of course, that huge demand that's happened with Teams, but there's been massive increase in WVD, Windows Virtual Desktop adoption as well. And so if you look at the Azure Fast Track team, all of the work that customers have demanded around, app dev engagements, DC migrations, work with data platform, and just moving everyone onto the cloud responsibly, so that honestly businesses continue to not just survive, but in many cases actually still thrive in this current normal that we're working in. And part of all of this has been with this increased digital usage, there's been a really heightened awareness and need for security as well. And so the engagements, the projects, the migrations, the modernization of apps and things like that, all of that has just accelerated by a huge amount. And honestly, it hasn't slowed down at all at this point.
Yeah, and it's been great also working with our customers that have been trying to also navigate all of this, and which has been great. I mean, I think from a migration perspective, the other thing that I think is super cool is that I'm seeing a lot of work being done with Windows Server, with SQL Server, bringing those things into the data centers. You got a lot of workloads there, and of course, this other part, like part of my goal is to save money. And so one of the things we're also trying to do, that's why we actually created the Azure, hybrid benefits, program. Because as I mean, Windows Server, SQL Server, those are actually also part of our team. We build technology. We use it internally to go build our own cloud. So of course we run it better than anybody else out there. And with the hybrid benefits, you can save up to like 86% compared to, some of the other hyperscale hosters and folks like that. And, so the migration of the data center has been really cool. But, I think the other thing that's interesting is that, of course, there's a lot of hybrid out there that people are using today, because it's not like all of a sudden you just woke up one day and said, my gosh, the cloud, I guess I'll start from scratch. It's like that just doesn't happen. We decided that day one, hybrid was super important. I mean, we've been doing data center software and running stuff for 2 decades now. So of course that made sense for us. And are you seeing any interest also around that kind of hybrid and the new modes that we're putting into that?
Oh, absolutely. So, if we think about, hybrid cloud, most customers, they have existing real estate right now. And if we think about whether it be on-prem or particularly with a competing cloud, and they want to have a multi-cloud strategy, or they want Azure, but Azure on-prem, whether it be for data sovereign reasons or things like that, us having just, honestly, I think best of breed when it comes to hybrid cloud with, Azure Stack Hub, Azure Stack HCI, Azure Stack Edge, and having all of that available. And again, it really speaks to meeting customers where they are, and not expecting everyone to, just lift and shift and move everything onto the cloud at any one time. That has just been huge. And we've seen a great deal of interest when it comes to kind of our edge strategy and our platform and our products and whatnot. And, but I'd love to hear kind of, appreciate your thoughts on how you see the edge and how do you see Azure when it comes to hybrid cloud as well?
Yeah, I will tell you one thing I'm super excited about. We announced Azure Arc, A-R-C, on something we're talking about. Some great sessions actually during the show. So highly encourage folks to go take a look at those. I mean, the key thing, like you said, we want to meet customers where they are. And so if I think about, our typical customers that we talk to, you might have VMware on premises, you've got Hyper-V running in there, you may have some bare metal services, maybe even some other, kind of hardware that you've been running for a long time, appliances or something else. And that's kind of your day life. And there, of course, there's a ton of that you may want to move into the cloud, get those efficiencies we talked about, but at the same time, you don't just stop running your business. I mean, like, obviously, you need to keep the existing workloads going. Some of them will move. It'll be in the hybrid mode. Some cases you may want flexibility. And so Arc, I really love this. I mean, because Arc is designed to do that, meet you where you are, but you can also start to invest in one set of assets. And this one's super interesting because, like you mentioned, multi-cloud. If you go off and do multi-cloud, there's kind of a couple ways to do it. You can use one cloud's management plane, build a bunch of assets and a team that knows how to do that. Then I can do the same thing for the other. And now I've got like two different systems, which is complicated. It's expensive, and you can make it work. Just to be clear, you totally can. I guess it gives you that ability to separate. But our goal with Arc was to come back and do a couple of things. One, you want to really make sure that you can get that management functionality, the capabilities against any infrastructure. And then also, if I think about like security and policy and things like that, and we have Azure policy, if you think about locking things down, getting into a consistent, set DevOps, kind of a pattern, being able to do that once and invest in a control set to keep you secure, figure out how that works, but then apply it to all these environments. Now I can start to make one investment, and that's why it's called Arc, actually. If you think about it, Arc's the whole thing. That lines you up in a really cool way, because now I can actually do those assets, once, make them enabled, and then I can go. So get some really cool technology there. I think that's going to be pretty awesome. We've got Azure Arc is generally available now. You can handle Windows servers and Linux servers, and unlike some other tech that's kind of trying to do some of the same things, that tech only really concentrates on one version of Kubernetes, and that's it. And so I'm sure it does a good job of that. But we kind of think this should be a broader thing around management and security and things like that as well. So pretty excited about that technology for exactly the scenario that you're mentioning. So let's think about this, Billy. You'd mentioned before around our Azure Stack and Edge appliances and stuff like that as well. I think that's another cool area that would be great to talk about, because as you mentioned, it's also part of meeting people where they are. I think that is a super interesting if we think about this. So you mentioned Azure Stack HCI, Hyperconverge, Azure Stack Hub, Azure Stack Edge, making all that stuff, up and running. I mean, like there's these cool scenarios that I think really start to light up when I get to have cloud. And I know one of the things you guys do with the CRE, our customer reliability engineering, you're also spending a bunch of time trying to figure out, how do we make this stuff symmetric? How do we make stuff work so that when you write a workload, I can deploy it anywhere? I mean, that feels really important to me. Do you hear the same, same feedback from customers?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point there. I mean, that's been probably a primary kind of use case that we're hearing, is just what you're calling it symmetrical, just that consistency that customers have been looking for, ongoing across, kind of hybrid cloud with our Edge products. So absolutely.
And I like the fact that we can take, so Azure Arc that we just talked about, again, works with other clouds, works with, your VMware, your existing estate, but also, of course, works with our Edge solutions. So the Azure Stack Hub, Azure Stack HCI, Azure Stack Edge works in the same, set of those. And with this point of, it is basically the same set of services that can run in both of those places. And so I know one of the things that you guys really do, I mean, one of the most common issues that people run into is, how do you set yourself up for reliability? How do you set yourself up for consistency? And so that notion of being able to deploy into two places, do failover between them. I mean, you must spend a ton of time actually working with people to kind of, HADR, your high availability, your disaster recovery, and,
absolutely,
all of those sorts of scenarios.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so we talked a little bit about Edge. I want to, kind of see if we can have a little conversation. So Satya yesterday announced the new partnership with AT&T, and I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on that when it comes to Just what does that open it up? What does that open up for customers, and what type of scenarios do you expect that you're going to be seeing with that partnership when it comes to IoT with that announcement?
Yeah, I'm very excited about this. I mean, Satya has done a really good job. He articulates, this notion very early on, this intelligent cloud and the intelligent edge. So if we start thinking about that, of course, we talked a lot about the cloud and the ability to scale and technology that we have there. In this case, we get now back onto the edge. So smart cities, smart campuses, vehicles, all these sorts of things. And if you think about it, the big thing that is going to be common here is we're going to have ubiquitous compute at the edge, and it requires connectivity, right? So I'm really excited about our partnership with AT&T, as a good example of this, because of course that ubiquitous compute at the edge basically means that we can do a whole bunch of computing workload, for example, for my smart building or my factory or my hospital. And then of course you want connectivity. There's some set of things that I'm going to do local, hot stream processing, time series data coming in, running equipment, making sure the environment is doing very well, stuff like that. But then of course I have to have connectivity so I can do the management, I can do the security, and I want to be able to upload a lot of that data as well, because of course, you're going to want to get your analytics up and running. So I think that ability to just go hook something up and take be able to leverage all of this work and this awesome infrastructure that a partner like AT&T has put in place is pretty awesome for that.
Awesome. So you touched on one thing here, and I want to get you to expand on that. So data, are the data services that Azure's providing, Azure SQL, Azure Cosmos DB, I'd love to just get your thoughts on kind of the offerings there in the data services space.
Yeah, and the cool thing, right off the bat, we can start off with like SQL Edge. Now we've gone to GA with that. So this is great, because if you think about it, of course, in the data center, we've got massive amounts of compute power and storage. We can do massive sort of things, and let's definitely talk about that. But it all starts off with these IoT configurations with a device that is trying to do something, temperature control or controlling some piece of equipment. And frankly, being able to have those data services at the edge, I can manage it with Arc, I can do the deployments. These are cases where you're, for example, maybe less than 500 megabytes, not petabyte scale, but that's what it's like on the edge if I have some kind of device, so we got great support for that. And as you point out, we can move into, a very rich and comprehensive set of technology. Azure SQL. Love SQL, baby. I mean, it is awesome stuff. Of course, like we own SQL Server. We built it. We've been doing this for 30 years. Yeah. I mean, my goodness. I mean, and so the cool thing
that long? Has it been 30 years?
Wow. Yeah, actually. I mean, I've been at Microsoft for 28. So I mean, I remember we were kicking it around, and and its technology is quite mature. The cool thing is that we, as an engineering team, though, we took it and made it into a cloud service, the Azure SQL. And so now you can do hundreds of terabytes, and you can have limitless scale across this. And it's based on exactly the same code, right? In other words, the same engine that you can download and run in your data center on your server is the same underlying engine. It's just that what we have done is we've turned it into something that can then also handle in the cloud, have the extra DR capability, and frankly, take a lot of that toil out. So, we use the word toil. It's kind of well understood in the industry. Basically, do I have to do the patching? Do I have to do the backups? So, of course, you have to do those things. The question is, can you just let a database as a service do that for you? And of course, that's where we've been doing this. And believe it or not, Billy, this service is one that we've been building for 9 years now and actually running it. And of course, huge parts of Azure itself are built on top of Azure SQL. So I'm not just an owner, I'm a customer. Does that work? No, but it's pretty awesome technology. And I know you use it a lot in tools and some of the infrastructure that your team builds and supports as well. So you need that scale.
That is awesome. So data is critical. We kind of know that. I think it's kind of the lifeblood of the world if we really get down to brass tacks here. But drawing insights from that data, is really where it's important. We know customers, need to make decisions really quickly. They need to make the decisions now. And I really love to get your thoughts on, like our Azure Synapse and our data and analytics products, and, kind of walk us through some of the things that excite you that, the people watching us, would love for them to understand about those products.
Yeah, because I mean, like, wow, we've got just an amazing set of tech. I mean, you mentioned a couple right there that really do get me very excited. I might even start off with also Azure Cosmos DB, because if you think about that, kind of your NoSQL data store, we talked about Azure SQL, massive scale there. Cosmos DB also fantastic. I mean, you can basically use one engine with all sorts of different protocols. So I can use Mongo, Cassandra, etc. And it's massive scale. I mean, we basically we mentioned Teams up front and how that is done. Again, an Azure workload built on top of our PaaS services, and a great partnership there. Their Cosmos DB usage grew 3x to about 1.4 petabytes. So if you think about the ability to go do that, and again, we're talking like 1 million transactions, sub 10 millisecond latency.
Wow.
Wow. I mean, this stuff is like freaking awesome, right? And so I can use the APIs that I'm used to, get that kind of scale. Consistency models and everything else were built in. Again, that was part of the core that was there. So now you start thinking about, okay, I've got my NoSQL database, I've got my relational database, I can take these patterns, my operational systems, we talked about IoT, time series, all these things kind of coming in. And this is all of this data and underlying estate is really awesome. And it doesn't it's not even just the tech that we create. I mean, because SQL Server is ours, Cosmos DB is ours, but we also have our services for Postgres and MySQL, very popular databases that are out there. And we did also make those. If you think about Postgres, MySQL, we actually did the work for to make those massively scale out as well. And it's 100% compatible. Which is pretty awesome. I mean, if you think about this, I mean, I see these claims like Spanner can go run Postgres and MySQL, and I guess the answer is if you want to throw away your schemas, get rid of your stored procedures, and do a bunch of query tuning, well, sure. But why not just actually use a Postgres engine that actually is Postgres and actually does work scale out? Because if you're going to go through the work, I mean, let's be clear, there's cases where you want to adopt a new technology versus what you have. If you want compatibility, use a scale-up Postgres engine like we've got. Just use the service. It just works. And if you want to get into something that has different characteristics like a Cosmos DB, or a Spanner, in our case, then you're going to do some additional work, but you get the benefits for that. And I think Cosmos, really shines there. So all at tech is just, freaking awesome. As an engineer, I love the scale. There's nothing makes me more excited than looking at some cool chart that's just like blowing the water out of, how much data we can do, how many transactions we can run, and and that kind of stuff, which is really cool. So excited about all of that. But like you just pointed out, I think the analytics is like our key thing, because we have all this data, we can run our systems of record, get our transactions, keep track of the bank accounts, all that kind of stuff. We can do all of that work. Product catalogs for gaming, even another great usage case for Cosmos DB retail shopping sites. But like you said, at the end of the day, we want to actually get the insights out of this. And so Synapse, fantastic example of what you had mentioned from before. This is a case where now I can start pulling these things together, because I would need to do this analytics. I got to be able to take a look at it. One of the things that really impresses me on this stuff, Synapse can do 10,000 concurrent users. With no problem. 10,000. Can you believe that? Where BigQuery is? It's 100. So if I start doing these comps on this, and you start thinking about analytics workloads, I mean, you got a lot of people drawing from this, right? I mean, orders of magnitudes. I mean, you should be counting commas, not zeros, on something like this, right? I mean, let's just get the right scale. So I'm super excited about that. And have a petabyte level, basically TPCH engine that can go do queries at that level with huge amounts of concurrent users and everything else. And then frankly, being able to also then link these worlds together. So the latest one, I don't know if you've played with this yet, man, we got to do another LT hackathon, we haven't done one of those in a while. We need to go back and go do that. We all sit down, the whole LT, we get together, we actually spend a whole day together, and we all just write code and use product. I love that. And I think Synapse Link and stuff would be a good one for us to all go play with next. Unless we can get some cool IoT devices, we should actually combine the two. Let's think about that. I think that would be a fun day.
That'd be good.
But I think it'd be fun. I mean, but if you think about Synapse Link allows you to now start taking your operational and your analytical database and be able to tie that data together in a very, very seamless way, so I can start getting all that stuff in there. And then by the time we're done, of course, the big thing is 94% cheaper, 14x faster. Again, start counting commas. I mean, that's kind of that's what I'm looking for. I want commas in these numbers. That's what really gives you the competitive edge for your business, don't you think?
I love it. I'm going to steal that. The commas term. Yeah. I want to shift gears if you're okay with that. I want to shift gears and talk about AI. So, we've been like laser focused on, honestly getting AI into just all developers' hands, just making it just straightforward. So it just becomes kind of part of what you do as a developer to leverage artificial intelligence and, machine learning and just data science broadly and things like that. Really just kind of helping them get to that, time to value, as quickly as possible and things like that. And since I get all of the, analyst reports and things like that, and I sit with many of them as well when we're talking about a number of these spaces, I have been seeing that, we seem to be doing pretty good with analysts when it comes to AI, and just you as the leader over at Azure, I'd love for you to share just, with people watching us, what are some of the things that you're excited about, or some of the behind the scenes that have gone into all of this, great and evidently well received AI work that's come out of Azure over these years.
Yeah, it's so transformative, isn't it? When you start pulling in the AI, the ML libraries, and everything else. I mean, just the scenarios that you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing, and it is going to be that kind of future. Of course, having that data, the analytics side, putting all this stuff in place, of course, is the mandatory pipeline for all of that. I will tell you, I'm always super excited because I spent 15 years in dev, working on Visual Studio Code, .NET, from scratch when it did file a new project. I'm the one that named all those DLLs in the directory. If you don't like the naming scheme, then you can blame me back in the 90s. But, so I love that. So I love all this work we've done with Git, with the Git and the ML ops and the way all this stuff comes together. Really super great productivity. Data science can work together with, our folks that are doing the IT admin work, our developers, everybody can come together and actually work in that kind of pipeline, which is cool. But, like you said, 2.5 billion messages through the bot service is amazing. We've got basically 83% of the Fortune 500 basically using all this technology that's there. And of course, this is all the same technology we use for our own stuff, right? So if you think about that, the one that always just blows my mind, I think about HoloLens. Right. it takes a month to train the holographic model that allows you to actually have photons coming at your face, hit a camera, actually decode and put something on the screen that's projected to me, and my brain can't tell the difference. Wow, that's just unbelievably amazing, just amazing technology. And so this is some of the stuff that Microsoft has done. It's massive billions of parameter models we've done with training and inference and stuff like that. It's just amazingly cool. And I'll tell you the other thing that's really cool about this, when you build these models and it works really, you've got it all lined up, it's so easy to make it available to all of your users, right? I can come back with Power BI, right? And that's already a fantastic tool. I can slice and dice, and I use that in your day job every single day because I know I use the PBI dashboard you give me, man. But you can start putting AI underneath of that stuff as well. So it comes back. And then also, if I think about Azure Databricks, something that we've done as a first-party service, and first-party basically means it's part of Azure. It's not just some download someplace. We've worked with the Databricks team to actually integrate it first class. So now I can get that Spark environment. I can have my Jupyter notebooks. I can combine all these things together, go leverage Git and all the DevOps, work that we've got. I can get the entire package working together. And of course, we're making it massive industry-leading scale because we have to. We have to have it for our own stuff. Wow, you got bingo right there, man. That's just as a developer, I still write code on the weekends, man. I don't know about you, but I love doing it. And just having access to these tools is just really, really cool.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Cool. This is great. And, I do want to, since you welcomed me and I assume thousands of people into your den, I do want to ask you one thing. I see a picture above your head, behind you, above your head. I wonder if you can kind of share with me and maybe the world what that is, since I know you're, here it is. What is that?
This is my signed Richard Sherman tip picture from back then. This is the NFC Championship game with the 49ers. So that was awesome. And if folks don't remember that, that's when Richard got the tip in the end zone, just seconds left, and actually caused an interception. And then we went to the Super Bowl, and then we won. There was correspondingly super interesting game the next year, which was great. Then I went to the Super Bowl. Just give Marshawn the ball. Even Marshawn last season improved. So, I'm not bitter, and I'm completely over it. Oh, goodness, I don't know. That might take me a while, man. It's going to take a while to get over that next year, but nonetheless, it was pretty cool. So thanks for setting this up, Billy, and I appreciate having the time to chat with you in this forum and frankly learn more about our customers and from your point of view as well and what we're doing. It's been a blast.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the time, and thank you for sharing with me and everyone here. And I really wish that everyone continues and enjoys the conference. Any other words you want to share, or are we good to go?
No, enjoy the conference. I mean, I think this format is amazing. Hats off to the Microsoft events team. I think they've done an amazing job, obviously with, Build earlier, and now we have, all the Ignite conferencing work that we're doing. And so I think keep the feedback coming. It's kind of amazing that it's another example of things that leveraging the technology, things that we probably wouldn't have actually done if not for some of these unique work environments, but things that I think are actually going to stick around and probably become a permanent part of our format. So another great use of technology and making pivots and figuring out how to make it work for us. I hope everybody really enjoys the show.
What a fantastic